Hi, I'm Sarah. Hi! Thanks for coming to my talk, 5 Things I Wished I Knew Before Being a Games Producer. This is my first ever NZGDC talk, so hopefully it goes well and the sky doesn't fall, so yeah. Okay, so we've got to start off with who I am. So I'm Sarah. I'm the producer and social media manager at Balancing Monkey Games. I've been there for the last 4 years. Yay for indie teams where we all wear multiple hats. So in some sense, my sister once told me I was the Hannah Montana of Balancing Monkey by splitting my role into very occasional opposite roles. I came from a theatre and media communications background at the University of Otago. But all in all, I entered the games industry 4 years ago with 0 video game experience. My earliest game memory was playing old Lego Star Wars with my dad on the family computer before bed, and he would start it up and I could hear the theme music play and I would just dash through to the next room. But outside of Balancing Monkey, you can find me doting and possibly annoying my cat Luna, reading and writing fantasy books, and, whoa, playing video games. That's crazy. So what do I do? When I started my role, I wasn't exactly sure the details of what a games producer did. I had done freelance theatre production, so I thought there would be some similarities at play there. But again, I had never really made a game production roadmap before. So I asked my team when I was making this what they think I do. The staring at mirror that's pretty fair. I do enjoy, though, the battle the foul minions of chaos with the holy sword of agile. I really enjoy that. So that's how they see me, so that's a great sign. But that there is how I felt when I read those messages on our Discord. But one of my first lessons of what my job would actually entail when push came to shove. But unfortunately, a producer's role can actually look really different in multiple different studios. There's not really a clear-cut definition, as we can ripple into multiple areas of the games production. But some things do stay the same, which is we're not managers, but we tend to work reasonably closely with said managers. We create structure and direction for the projects through managing and creating roadmaps and task organisation through planning software. When I started, I got the team onto Hack and Plan, and then about halfway through development or 2/3 of the way through, we decided we're moving to Jira, so that was an adventure. Adjusting plans when things aren't feasible anymore, arranging meetings, and ensuring the project is staying true to scope. We can tend to be the scope guard, the cheerleader, and even emotional support blanket at times. I really liked this quote from Mikey from a GDC talk a few years ago, which said, "Producers aren't there to bring absolute certainty to a project. The job of a producer is to highlight the range of possibilities that could be to generate data that informs decision making." So I thought that really helped me in my early days. The next thing was knowing my team. So this, firstly, isn't about putting people in boxes. And it's nice to know, what your colleague is maybe watching on Netflix, or what their favourite colour is, or what their personal hobbies are. But this is about getting to know how they work, how they tick, what their ideal way of working is, the speed that they do things, because this can inform roadmaps, time estimations, and things like that. I'm aware that there's multiple different ways you can kind of simplify this. There's personality tests teams can do online. This was the more simple one I could put into a 30-minute talk. So there's the FIRE ones. It's leaders and motivators of the office, or at least tend to be. They thrive in fast-paced environments, quick decision-making skills. However, because they like to go quick, go fast, they're quite prone to burning themselves out quite quickly, and could possibly appear impatient at times if things aren't going as quick as they want them to. There's the emotional core of the office. Their strengths could lie in conflict resolution and team dynamics, but they might avoid confrontation themselves or setting boundaries for themselves to benefit the team rather than like the work-life balance thing. The idea guys, the communicators of the office, they're quick to adapt, natural networkers, but they're prone to distraction. Which is me at times. And then the organisation and structure ones, which most producers will likely fall into. The attention to detail, long-term structure. Funnily though, we can sometimes resist change, even if it is for the better. I remember when we were looking at switching from Hack and Plan to Jira, which in the end was the best decision we could make, but at the time I didn't want to. Not because I could see it as it benefiting the team, but it was this massive beast of a thing. And it made me feel really anxious, and so I resisted it for a wee while until finally I gritted my teeth and we got through there, thankfully, because our QA person is so knowledgeable in Jira that she helped me through that. But funnily, yeah, we may struggle with spontaneity and resisting change, which I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a tricky one, especially for producers. And then developing trust. So this is actually a little formula that my managing director taught me. Everyone has to trust their colleagues to some extent, especially though in small indie teams, as we work so closely together. I, at least, had the least game production experience on the team, and yet I was responsible for planning how and when we would get across the finish line. And on top of that, Balancing Monkey Games have hybrid working, so we have some people in office and some people elsewhere in Aotearoa, or even some contractors globally. So I don't see them all the time, so therefore it may take them a little bit more time to trust me if they just get to know me via Discord messages. So this little formula helped me kind of break it down into actionable steps, kind of like my own roadmap, I suppose. So math was not my strong suit at school, but this one I can work out. So it was credibility times reliability times intimacy divided by self-orientation equals trust. Obviously there's the things there that, the definitions, I suppose. But I guess that can look different from team to team, but I didn't realise how important this would be as time went on, because trust isn't something that just happens. It's an evolving thing. And some people, it can go a little bit of a roller coaster sometimes, and that's okay. So yeah, especially coming with no experience, getting the team to trust that I knew what I was talking about, at least eventually, was really, really important when we had multiple years ahead of us of developing Beyond These Stars. But then the most important thing that I learnt, and if you take anything away from this, please let it be that no plan survives contact with the enemy, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. Not only are roadmaps living documents, they're subject to change, as well as if you practice agile, metaphorical speaking, I guess, at your studio, that's adaptive. That's not it has to happen like this. It changes as you develop the game, and that's to be expected. No one is invincible to making mistakes, no matter how long you have been in the industry. In fact, it's when our plans change, or when we make mistakes, is when we actually learn the most. To burst some bubbles, unfortunately, this is a secret that only you guys can know, producers can't tell the future. We don't actually have a crystal ball on our desk at all times. I kind of wish I did. So yeah, we wish we could for the sake of the team, but as that quote said originally, we can get as much data and documentation as we can to help inform those roadmaps, but at the end of the day, those roadmaps still might change. What we can do is best to future-proof our roadmaps. So the two things I learned of how to, at least, when those roadmaps did change, it didn't change drastically, was to A, allow for wriggle room, or what you would call buffer, or contingencies. So when I'm time estimating, my colleague or team member might say, okay, that's going to take me half a day. And I'll say, okay. And I would, in my mind, think, okay, that might take 2/3 of a day because you have to take into account meetings, lunchtime, social time. And then when life just happens, unfortunately people get sick, life events happen, and some people need to take time off work. So it's quite important to involve those contingencies and buffer time into your roadmap. And then get your team involved, and don't go at the roadmap alone. It's useful for team buy-in, first of all, so they can feel like they're part of the process, so it's not just the producers going away into their wee cave. But I'm the producer, I'm not the programmer, so I'm not going to know all the X, Y, Z, A, B, and C that goes into that piece of code. So I will go across to my programmers and say, hey, what do you mean by that? Please explain in English, please. And that's okay, because they're not going to expect me to know things that they've been doing for their paycheck. I'm not going to know that sort of stuff, because they live in Unity, and if someone comes along at show and tell, at retrospective, and says, this is the sunset I made, that's magic to me. I don't know how you did that. I don't know if it's Unity or some black magic, but I don't know. So getting your team involved in meetings, bring snacks. Snacks really do work. And ideally, if your team has the time to sit there and listen and be, it does take some time, unfortunately, but it's good in the long run for you not to just play guesswork and poking in the dark, really. So that's an example. These aren't all the roadmaps. And this isn't necessarily, Sarah, you suck at your job, why are you up here? It was more while I was still learning, maybe roadmaps that we did. You can see some blurred ticks over there, or just when life happened and we had to make a new map. And that was okay, but at the time, especially in my first year, when that first roadmap didn't work out, whoa, I thought I had failed. I thought I wasn't fit for the role that I was in. Boy, was I ready for something, because, example A, B, C, D, and E. So it's interesting standing up here and being like, look at my work that didn't work out. But that's okay. That's okay, because as I said, not only Agile is adaptive to change, sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's okay. That's okay. And then navigating chaos. So if you just went to my boss's talk, you might have heard this story. But late last year, we sent a build to our publisher thinking we were feature complete, and that we could start looking towards our release timeline, which was really, really exciting after, I believe that would have been 3.5 years of development. Then a message came in, and a day or so before Christmas, and long story short, it wasn't ready for release. Some of the team came back from holiday before me, as I went on holiday a little bit later. So they were able to go back to the drawing board before my creative director and I came back. But when I did get back, I had where this message came in, it was on Slack, I had that muted. So I didn't know that this happened until I walked in that morning. And I'm not sure if you've seen the gif of that guy coming in with a pizza box and everything's on fire. That's kind of what it felt like a little bit. The team discussed the changes and prototypes, and then I was sent on my merry way to roadmap it all, while also doing my best to help out with keeping morale up, as when you receive feedback as, hey, you thought your game was ready, it's not, takes a big dip in morale. So in part now, we were really grateful for the feedback because the game has been stronger since. We were also super disappointed, and so it was a little bit of a roller coaster over time. And these were the lessons that I learnt in a very, very short space of time. Even though I had said before, roadmaps change, it's fine. When push comes to shove, it is actually quite hard to accept that things will change. So I had to learn how to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. The uncomfortable might be that someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer yet. So you'll say, okay, that's valid, let me get back to you, and make sure you get back to them. But then the most uncomfortable of all, at that point at least, was we didn't have a deadline yet. We didn't know where the end of the tunnel was. We thought we did, turns out, nope. And that was a really uncomfortable position to be in, especially as a producer that helps set those deadlines. When I was still fidgeting things around in the documentation and the roadmap and putting it into the timeline, I didn't know for a couple of days where the end of that timeline was. And that was quite difficult to communicate. So being comfortable with that and being like, hey team, I know how we're feeling, this is a bit of a chaotic time, but we're gonna get there. The sky isn't falling, I know it feels like it, but it's gonna be fine. And then on top of that was trusting my own ability to lead and make decisions. Something I have learned as well, which I probably should have put here, is that imposter syndrome, no matter how long you've been in the industry, it will be there. But again, that syndrome crept up behind me in that specific time because everything was moving so fast. We needed to get decisions made, but also make sure we weren't rushing it. I had to kind of give myself a bit of a push, put my big girl boots on and say, Sarah, you can actually do this. You know what you're talking about. You've been doing this for a number of years now. You can do this. And then lastly was practicing what I preached about whole health advocacy. So that looked like practicing boundaries with work-life balance. I find in creative sectors, at least, we can sometimes struggle with taking work home with us. And some jobs, a physical job maybe, you do your shift, you come home, and you don't need to think about it. But at least for me, I come home and I sometimes still work in my brain, in my little lizard or monkey brain or whatever the one it is, where my social media manager brain kicks in when I'm just using TikTok and I'm like, oh, I like that audio, I'm going to save that, and then suddenly I'm back in work mode. Keeping an eye on your own sanity meter, whatever that looks like for you. So if you feel like you're just a little bit out of patience or spoons that day, it is in fact okay to go work from home. I know not everyone has the ability to do that, but for me, I had to kind of keep that in check to be like, do you need to work from home today? Do you need a little bit of quiet? And then ensuring you have your own support crew and are using that, no matter if that's having a meeting with one of your bosses to be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or your friends or your family at home, because you know, you will see other people's morale dipping, and I kind of just didn't want to think about my morale dip until I started to really feel it, when the pressure went on, was like, okay, this roadmap really needs to get done now. And I guess it's the put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others, which I had to learn sometimes the hard way. But then, one last thing, as I said previously, my first game experience was when I played Lego Star Wars with my dad on the family computer. But I never thought one day I'd actually be working in the games industry. And I certainly had a lot to learn when I arrived. And so I wanted to thank a few people to, as I said, it takes a village to raise a games producer. So Sam and Anna at Balancing Monkey Games are my bosses, and they took me on as a junior and provided me with the support and patience I needed when I first started, especially as a junior. My mentor, Samantha Cook at Artifact 5, for teaching me the ropes and holding my hand through those first few months. I remember her cheering me on as I led my first stand-up meeting, and I was freaking out. The community managers, the community managers of Aotearoa Discord community, which goes into my other part of my job, for just being a kind, safe and supportive environment where social media work can be challenging and ever-changing. And then my team. I work with some really cool people. It's really inspiring to come to work every day and work alongside such talented people. And I cannot wait till we can finally show you more of Beyond These Stars and how much passion has been poured into it over the last few years. And on that note, it's me. I think. Oh my gosh. I think we have time for questions if anyone has questions for me. If not, that's totally cool.
What's your favourite prioritisation method?
Oh.
Highest to lowest. They always give me microphones even though I can project. What's your favourite prioritisation method? Moscow, highest to lowest, or other?
Basically, I've only been using one, and that's in Jira at the moment. We have a prioritisation of blocker. I'm going to hopefully say this right. Blocker, highest, high, medium, low, nice to have. Because as we're making a city builder game, there's lots of different things at play at different times. And a lot of the time a task will be made and put at a medium priority, which is a happy middle ground. And then once I see that and think about, okay, whose responsibility is this, especially when it's bugs, then I can go to, if it's more of a technical artist kind of thing, I can go to Isaac and say, hey, I'm not entirely sure what the priority of this is, and I will help, or that he will help me figure out the priority of that.
And also, what is your favourite Jira tool and why is it Confluence?
Oh, we actually moved to Confluence really recently, which, yay. I mostly spend my time in, I can't remember the title of it actually. We call it the BTS Plan 1, where I'm a little bit more of a visual learner. So if I see a bunch of lists, it kind of gives me a little bit of a headache. So if I can open up folders and collapse them and just look at a very tight, succinct area at a time, that helps me just have less overwhelming feeling when you're looking at a giant backlog. Yeah, I hope that helps. I think you had your hands up first, I think.
Hiya, so I'm in my first producer role after graduating with little to no training from my school in actually how to be a producer. What would you say is some unexpected challenges you've had while entering this role, and if you have any recommendations or resources that could help?
Oh, firstly, congratulations, by the way. I would say if you can't, like, finding a mentor or getting a mentor provided to me really, really helped me, because I was kind of just put in there and I wasn't really sure what I was walking into. In terms of a challenge, my first thing that I came up against was when I started, my team was using Trello and we moved to Hack and Plan. And that was in part learning a software planning thing, but also moving all of this knowledge of Before We Leave at the time, because I came on when we were developing the last update for Before We Leave, before we stopped active support and development on it. But it was around the time that we started pre-production and brainstorming our current one, which is Beyond These Stars. So it was building a software planning from absolutely zero to a backlog, a plan, a brainstorm. So that was, I'm not sure if it was the big scary thing, but it was my first big learning curve to do. In terms of resources, I'd recommend, I feel like Samantha, actually, we had a somewhat of a production book club, which was just her and I on a Discord call. I forget the name of the book, the production playbook, I think. I'm going to Google that, and I'm going to come back to you after I'm off this stage, because I've forgotten the name of the book, and it was very useful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Up the back and then round to the front.
Hey, thanks, Sarah. Just wanted to understand a little bit more about how you establish a rapport when you started out. If you're with a team of people who are super technical and experts in their field, and you're kind of coming in fresh, any tips for that side of it?
So, as in like having their experience up here, and I'm more like
I guess
learning?
you're on a different playing field or whatever from them. How did you establish that credibility, I guess, in a team of people who were like technically talented?
Well, luckily I had a really understanding team that knew where I was coming in from. So that was definitely in my favour, that they gave me the time and patience to learn. And I had a mentor to kind of balance that out. So they still had a relatively experienced producer while the junior was kind of coming up to par. But honestly, I actually bring that down to my team having the patience and time with me. But I guess acknowledging that I was now in a team, in an industry where it was actually okay to make a mistake, and that communication was really important. My managing director, I think 2 months after I started, was like, "Oh, you've got your one-on-one today." I thought I was getting fired. I didn't know what one-on-ones were. I was that just out of the loop. So she took me out for lunch, and I was like, "Oh, this is a cushy wee meeting." And she's like, "Oh, so have you been having a good time?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Yeah. I wish I had a more like, this is how you build rapport with the team. But I suppose the trust model, I wish I had that a lot sooner, with just getting to know the team, how they worked, how they ticked, and how they got to know me, not just as the producer, but ideally as a colleague and someone they could talk to just as friends as well. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
I think you've had your hand up for a while.
The amazing talk.
Thank you.
The imposter syndrome, I think, hit a chord, and I wanted to ask if there was something a bit more specific that really did help you avoid it, or just work through it, or pull the bootstraps up. But
Yeah.
anything more specific? Thank you.
I did my best to actually not ignore it. I wanted to, for sure, but it kind of sounds a bit backwards, but I let myself feel it, to be like, okay, you're nervous because that's understandable. You are coming into an industry that's new to you, and that's okay. But I let myself feel that and be like, okay, thank you, brain. Thank you for acknowledging the nervousness. I'm now going to remember that they hired me for a reason. They hired me because in my interview, I think we laughed for most of the time, actually. But to, as I said, to trust in my own ability, which is easier said than done. But even just going back through the work that you had done. So even if you had a software planning thing that you set up, oh, you did that. Something that one of my social media friends taught me is that I have a folder on my work PC called "You're Doing Amazing, Sweetie," which is just snapshots of sometimes when someone sends me a nice message, or like, "You did great, Sarah," or whatnot, and I can look at that in times where I feel like I'm struggling a little bit and be like, oh, I'm not as bad as I think I am. So I do recommend that if you're able to. Yeah. Hoodie?
Thanks for the talk. I'm just curious, like throughout your career or your journey, have you find yourself backtracking a lot in like the overall progress of the game of the product that you're working on? How do you keep track of the checks and balances with what the teams told you about the progress? Yeah.
Sure. So every morning we have a stand-up meeting. We have a text stand-up that you fill out before the video call time at 9:30. So I can at least know what programmer A, B, or technical artists or whatnot are doing that day. We also have our roadmap sits in Miro, which is available for all the team to see. And I tend to have a little arrow, like a little map icon that says "You are here," so I can we can tick things off as they go or color code them, and I can plan out where some marketing bets are happening. So when we were releasing our demo into Steam Next Fest, which is still available, by the way, so I could see these bumps or these important milestones in the road as I went. I now also have started doing production reports for my bosses, so it means that my bosses can. One of my bosses, creative director, is also a programmer, and so he just wants to get into the code, which I totally understand. But when you've been working on a product for 4 years, you're like, is everything still going okay? Are we still meeting our deadlines? Oh my gosh. So twice a week in our 4-day work week, I'll just send a brief update to be like, this is what these people have been working on. There's any red flags that I've found. This person is going to take time off at that point to go to that conference, so we need to make sure that this thing is done by then so QA can test it while they're away. And I think that's helped at least just overall understanding of how the product is going. I don't think, just on top of my head, I don't feel that we have backtracked, but we have changed our plans at times because of feedback we received from playtesters or the publisher, or just things coming up or things taking longer than expected. However, some things can take a lot shorter than expected. So it kind of moves and breathes, I guess, as we go. Yeah.
Awesome. It sounds like you have a really amazing team.
Yeah, I do. Josh? It's down here.
I mean, I probably...
Oh, you probably, yeah. Oh, true.
Oh, thank you. I think one of the most difficult parts about being a producer is approaching those difficult conversations with the team, especially when it comes to things like perhaps features that product are really passionate about, or even keeping them close to on time and to deadline. Are there any kind of safety tools that you have, or ways that you prepare when you're preparing yourself for all these kinds of conversations?
That's a good question. I take time to check in with myself, so I'm going into that discussion not really anxious and rigid. So if I'm giving the news, it can come from someone at least appearing calm. I also take advice from my directors, as they may want to do that, and then they pass the mic to me maybe of how this might look in a roadmap setting or whatnot. But then I always try to allow space for, once that news or uncomfortable thing has been talked about, we don't just move on. We don't go, okay, and now roadmap. We say, okay, do you want to take 5? Do you need to sit with this for a bit? Do you want to come back to this after lunch? Or sometimes me and my friends will just go on what MJ and I call the hot girl walk at lunchtime. So we'll go out and get a coffee, and then I'll ask her, hey, you've got a lot on your plate, what, do you want to talk about it? If not, totally cool. So yeah, I think just making time for yourself first, and then extending that to your team as well. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, thank you for coming.